UPS is in the midst of one of the most significant transformations in its 117-year history. After years of navigating slow demand, rising costs, and global trade uncertainty, the company just delivered a surprise earnings beat, driven by bold cost-cutting moves, sweeping network consolidation, and a sharpened focus on profitable growth. At the center of that transformation is Matt Guffey, UPS's Chief Commercial and Strategy Officer. He joins me to discuss what this new chapter means for UPS, how he's redefining growth in a volatile trade environment, and what it takes to lead through massive change.
Are you ready to nurture what's next? Reimagine industries to turn bold ambition into the beginning of everything. What's your next brilliant move? McKinsey & Company.
Matt Guffey, EVP and Chief Commercial and Strategy Officer at UPS. Thank you so much for joining us on Fortune Next to Lead.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
All right, let's jump right into things. I want to first delve into your career journey, your leadership evolution. You spent 25 years at UPS, rising from a marketing specialist. You're now the company's Chief Commercial and Strategy Officer, as I already noted. Looking back at those 2.5 decades, I'm curious what philosophies have guided you from your early days in the field to now holding a C-suite role.
Yeah, so first off, I appreciate the question. I think, look, Ruth, from my seat, having the opportunity and the blessing to work for this company for, 25 years, there's a lot of lessons that I've learned. One, I think, and as you grow up through this company, I'm a little bit unique because, it's, where I've started with UPS, but I've had multiple, almost like many careers with one company. And part of the leadership lessons that I've learned is one, always keeping servant leadership, being a servant leader is one of the most important things, right? And leading from the front, acting in humility is really, really important, not just for our culture, but also for our people as well. And it's sort of the story on how I grew up in UPS as well. It's, where I started in Southern Illinois. And my career has been a little unique because I am, obviously the Chief Commercial Officer and Strategy Officer at UPS. And marketing was always my discipline. But I've had the opportunity to really work in our operations to load trucks and to drive trucks and to understand what the intricacies of our business and what it takes, which has really formed how I think about leadership and the values of being a leader. And so, one, to your question, being a servant leader, but also there is power in listening. And how you listen to your people and how you listen cross-functionally and how we listen to our customers. And it's really, Ruth, listening with the intent to understand, not the intent to respond. And I think it's been a challenge, and I've learned this throughout my career, is as a leader, you can walk in the room and people want to hear your views, but really listening to the voice of the customer, listening to the voice of your people has really been critically important for me and helped define my career path at UPS.
Yeah. Well, in your response, you said that although you spent 25 years at the same employer, you've almost had many different lives, several different careers during that time span. What was the pivotal moment in your career, one that most tested you or that transformed how you lead? Anything immediately come to mind?
Yeah, I think it's when, look, I grew up in Southern Illinois. I come from humble beginnings in my role in Illinois at UPS. And I was, as I mentioned, I came out of my undergraduate degree in marketing, and I thought I was just going to be this, the best marketer in the world and be the best at it. And one unique thing about UPS, I can honestly say I have never really raised my hand for a position. UPS has always sort of tapped you on the shoulder to say, hey, we would love for you to take this opportunity on. And I think it's important because I tell a lot of UPSers, look, be the best and the greatest at what you do, and many, many doors will open for you. And to your question, one that was more challenging, though, for me was when I came out and I thought I was going to be this best marketer, and they asked me to go run an operation. And I think many people that I was either on staff with as a peer or partners were a little bit set back because typically when you have a track in the commercial space, whether it's sales or marketing or strategy, you stay within that track and within that area of expertise. But this gave me a different view on our business. And so it was really, as you can imagine running our operations, you start at 4:30 in the morning and you get done at about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the evening, because that's, it's how the flow of commerce goes. And so it was really an opportunity for me to take a step back and go into that operation, but think about how I would lead differently, because it wasn't just leading with all of our management employees, but also how we manage, our labor workforce and how we, make our commitments to our customers. And it really gave me a different perspective on how we create value or commitments to our customers. And if I could give you an example that I think I always, recall this, is if as when I was in sales and marketing, early in my career, you can go out and sit in front of a customer and you can make these commitments to really, whether it's selling the account or committing to these customers. But somebody physically has to orchestrate that and do that work to make it happen, whether it's an early delivery to a place of business or a late night pickup. And that experience in that role really tested me as not just a leader, but as a partner in the business. But it also helped me understand what it takes to make those commitments and the value of having one UPS together, not just from a sales, a marketing, or commercial, but how our operations and our commercial teams come together to actually execute on our promises that we make to our customers.
Yeah. Well, staying on this career thread, you've also held leadership roles, well, certainly across the U.S., but also in Europe. How did those international experiences really shape your perspective or reshape the way you think maybe about teams, about your customers, about the broader culture at UPS?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, look, one of the things and what we are most proud of, and I am most proud of at UPS, is our trusted brand. And I think it's really, really important. But when you grow up in the United States, everyone knows the brown package car that comes to their house to deliver the packages. Whether whether it's a retail package or even if it's a healthcare package, right? We think about this as it's not a package, it's a patient. So when we think about that, I grew up and had the experience of seeing the brown trusted shield deliver every day to businesses and to homes. But when I had the opportunity to go and live in Europe and have the international experience, the brand is perceived differently. Yes, we're a global brand, but how we localize that brand into certain countries that we might not have the market share that we have in the United States was really it's something I had to really take in and listen to the team, to one of my comments earlier on just the value and the power of listening to how do we localize this for the market that we're in. And I lived in the UK, and I had the 4 countries in the UK, the Nordic countries, and Ireland, and how that's different and how that brand resonates differently in each one of those markets is critically important, because you have to celebrate the differences in the culture, but at the same time, you have to also represent and amplify the UPS brand and keep that trusted brand globally, not just in the United States. So it was a great lesson for me to really also think about when you think about diversity of thought. When I had that international experience, I reflect back on one team that I had in the UK. I had 13 different countries of individuals that were represented on my team. So when you think about making sure that you get all the viewpoints and that power of listening, it really made us a better team, but also helped us push forward with our brand across those countries that I was able to serve.
I mean, you've seen UPS through multiple business cycles, through various transformations. You're currently in the midst of one now, which we'll later dig into. How do you keep innovation at the forefront in an organization that's nearly 120 years old?
Yeah. So look, one of the greatest, the richness of our company is our culture. So it's a delicate balance between respecting the culture, but also how do you innovate and think differently to grow into different parts of the markets, whether it's in the U.S., whether it's international, whether it's in our supply chain business or our healthcare business. One of the things that we've really pushed is thinking about innovation through a different lens. As I take a step back, and I'll give you a couple examples, Ruth, is one, UPS is the value share leader of returns business. So when you think about ordering something and then shipping it back, we really have a great hold in the market as it relates to returns volume, which is very, very important business for us. However, we also knew that space, and you probably realize this personally, is a bit being disrupted. So we had to take the mindset of disrupt ourselves before we're disrupted, and how do we innovate in this space? It would have been easy to take down the path of just continue on the path we're on and continue to try to grow. But innovation really came into key, and this is why you heard me talk about in my opening the on-demand businesses and happy returns. And it's a prime example of innovation for us, is because we then acquired a company that allows us now to not just create a what's in the box, but create an experience that surpasses all of our competitors, which is a no box, no label, consolidated return. And we really had to innovate. I think I guess the challenging part is I'm blessed to have a great CEO, Carol Tomei, at UPS. And when we went down this path of innovation in the return space, I literally told her on a Thursday evening, we can build this capability in-house. We'll go out and build this. We know we need to have a great experience. We can drive a better returns experience. And she gave me the nod, okay, we'll build it. That was a Thursday. I thought about it through the weekend and came back to her on a Monday and said, actually, the comment I made on Thursday, I was just kidding. We have a better option to go buy someone because of speed. And when we think of innovation, you mentioned this, the accelerated pace of change that's going on in our industry is like I've never seen it in my 25 years. So we knew speed had to play a role in the innovation. And that's why we went down the path and acquired Happy Returns, which has been a great fit into the UPS portfolio. It's allowed us to continue to keep our strategic position, but also create a much different experience for our customers.
Yeah. We'll soon loop back around to this very discussion because I think it's one worth delving even more deeply into. I first want to just talk about your title. You have the title Chief Commercial and Strategy Officer, which really covers a lot of ground. I mean, talk to us about what it is that's front of mind for you. What are your priorities? Because you have quite an expansive remit.
Yeah. So first off, growth. I always tell the team here at UPS, growth is everybody's opportunity. So I am focused on how we grow our company at UPS. So how we think about growing, I have responsibilities for U.S. sales, global marketing, global communications, and then our on-demand businesses that I highlighted earlier. And really, this is about growing in the segments of the market that are value accretive to UPS. And it's really, really important for us to continue that we make sure that we grow in these sectors and with customers that value the relationship and value the network that UPS can provide. So my remit, as we think about just on the growth side, on the commercial side, is being laser focused on the segments and sectors where we want to grow in and take share and create a strong market position. On the other side, though, on strategy, it's not just about growth for today, but it's how do we think about growth in the future. And there's 3 tenets of our strategy that I think are critically important, which is customer first, people led, and innovation driven. And all of those tie into how we think strategically on the investments that we make within our business that will help accelerate growth in the short term, the midterm, but also the long term.
UPS, as you know, just had an earnings call and recently announced this realignment toward industrial shippers, certainly healthcare clients, supply chain services, and overall higher margin customers. I'm curious why those segments and how do they reflect the new long-term direction of the company?
So it's a great question. So look, you heard me mention this earlier. We are aligning with those segments of the business that value the network and the service that we provide. And we've had, one thing I'm super proud of on, from an operational perspective is, we have the best service in the industry. And when you think about commercial business, I'll use one and I'll unpack a few others. But on the commercial side, it's multi-pieces from a pickup perspective going to a multi-piece delivery. Those economics make sense for us, and we're really, really good at it. One great thing about UPS is things that are more complex is what we're really good at. Healthcare is really complex. We're really good at delivering healthcare, whether it's something that needs cold chain capabilities, right? But also needs the reliability to make sure we deliver every day on time and the commitments that we make to not just an end, a consumer at the home, healthcare in the home, but also to hospitals and to, other laboratories around the United States. So these areas and these segments of the business are ones that we've got great relationships with customers where we know that we can, as they grow, we can grow with them. And not only is it important because of a unit economics, it also allows us to help those customers grow. Because when they grow, we can obviously grow with them.
You mentioned healthcare, and it's interesting because we were talking about the brand that is UPS, certainly in the U.S. and also abroad. When I think UPS, I think the brown uniforms, I think packages, I think elation over an Amazon package that I shouldn't have ordered, hit in my doorstep. But I don't think healthcare. I'm curious where you're seeing growth within the healthcare space and kind of the catalyst behind the move into the healthcare vertical.
Yeah, so listen, we've been on our healthcare journey for quite some time. Currently, we're about at a $14 billion healthcare business. And, we have the aspiration, we've been very, vocal about this, of reaching the $20 billion mark in our healthcare business. So this is one note is UPS is not new to healthcare. However, the capabilities that we've been building over the last, really 5 years has put us in a position and really a position of differentiation versus what others can do. One of the things I will highlight is, look, it really started to surface and it became more broadly known on our brand during COVID. When you think about UPS being deemed essential early on in COVID, we delivered billions of vaccines with over 99% effective on-time reliability. So it really gave us an opportunity. And we had made investments early leading up to, not predicting COVID, but leading up to COVID, to being able then to leverage the assets that we've invested in. And this goes back to your earlier question on how do you, from a strategy perspective, short-term versus long-term. We made the right long-term investments or long-term bets within the business and investments that allowed us to really put UPS Healthcare on the map during a time when not just the United States, but the world needed us most. And that's where I think it was really, really important, because when you also think of strategy and when you think of healthcare, I often have a saying internally is, look, a part of strategy is being simple. Right? Keeping the strategy simple. And when you work for a company that's almost 500,000 people, it's not just that the executive team or the leadership team or our management team understand the strategy, but do our frontline resources understand what our strategy is? And my short answer would be yes, because when you look at what our drivers, and you highlighted it, when you see those, great pressed brown uniforms that are delivering to your home or to a business every day, that trust in the brand allowed us to really continue to win in healthcare. And when you couple that with the capabilities that I mentioned, whether they be cold chain or others, it really put us on the map to be able to deliver healthcare packages and win and grow in this space.
Would it be accurate to characterize this next iteration, I should say, of UPS, this turnaround, as a pivot from volume and more toward value, or a pivot from just scale for the sake of scale more towards selectivity?
Absolutely. I think it's a great point. Listen, I think where we're focusing on, UPS is and will always be a growth company. Always be a growth company. And I think it's important, but as you think about areas of the business that we're gliding down that aren't as accretive, and focusing on these segments and sectors of the business that really, really help, that we can help enable growth. As I mentioned, we've talked about healthcare. We've talked about, how we think about going beyond borders as well. So international movements and multimodal movements, but also at small and medium businesses in the United States and around the world, that's one sector that we've really, really focused on, because we can help them navigate their supply chain. They might not have the resiliency that larger enterprise or global companies have, but UPS partnering with our SMBs can provide them with much more supply chain resiliency and help them navigate, whether it's dealing with a tariff or whether it's just shipping a package from Atlanta to Chicago. So these sectors that we have decided to really focus in and have been focusing in, and where we've seen an actually increase in our market share as we've doubled down here, is really beneficial to help us grow value share over the next few years.
how are you using data, automation, and AI, or even not just you, UPS as a whole, to become faster, to become more flexible, certainly to become more profitable? How are you using it personally, and how does that fit into the broader org?
Across every one of our functions, all the executive teams have use cases where we're leveraging AI, but it's leveraging AI for business outcome. And we're very, very focused on that, to making sure that whether it's a benefit to cost or if it's a benefit to the top line on revenue, but making sure that we can create, leveraging that technology to create a much better experience or lower our cost to serve. I will tell you, I think in our customer call centers, we have leveraged AI to really radically change the way in which our customers, when we take inbound calls, how much and where those calls should be routed, and the amount of time that we have to keep our customers on a call, but also first-time resolution. So we've been, as you can imagine, a company like UPS that moves millions and millions of packages every day, and calls that customers might call in to say, hey, I'm looking for my shipment, or where is my order? This AI technology has allowed us, and agentic AI has allowed us to leverage our call centers and be more proactive than reactive, and manage customers' expectation with first call resolution.
I want to discuss UPS Store, brick and mortar strategy. The UPS Store is one of the most recognizable pieces of UPS's brand. I think you have some 5,000, if not more, locations across North America. How do you think about the strategic role of that network in an increasingly digital-first world?
I do think when you think about the brand of UPS, the UPS Store amplifies our brand, because many times when you hear, individuals that talk about their UPS store, they don't call it the UPS Store. They call it my UPS Store. And it's a franchise model, but it's allowed us to get local and humanize the UPS brand. And the one thing I would tell you is, in the digital world, to your question, when I talked about the on-demand network, so when you think about, our Roadie, which is big and bulky, same-day delivery, when you think about the UPS Store, and then when you think about Happy Returns bringing the digital capabilities to a physical footprint of the UPS Store. And this is what I believe differentiates UPS. It's great to have the digital capabilities, but physically, you still have to be able to orchestrate that good. And that's what the UPS Store does. It brings that physical component with 3 years in a row, number one in customer service. They have done a phenomenal job of creating a great experience throughout the United States. The other thing I would ask you to think about, which is, and most people don't know this, but over 10% of the volume that enters into the UPS network comes through the UPS Store. The UPS Store is a significant gateway for our customers and consumers to put packages into our network. So when you complemented and you had that great experience physically when you walk into the store, when you layer on then the digital capabilities, that the Happy Returns, that you can go into a store with no box and I can return this jacket that I have on with a QR code. They will take it, put it in a box, consolidate it, and ship it back for you. It really takes a lot of stress off of the consumer, but it's another one that's a win-win-win. It's a win for UPS because, remember, I said earlier, the commercial volume for us really, really matters, and you're picking up multiple packages from one UPS store and taking it to a shipper's return location. It's a win for the retailer because you're doing a consolidated movement, and it's a great experience for the consumer because what you can do is you drop off the returns, and in many cases, if the shippers have it set up this way, the time you get to your car, you can actually have the refund in your account, and that's because of the trust that they have with them tendering a package into the UPS network. So this has become one of the highlights really in my career of having the opportunity to work with and lead the UPS Store team. And they've done a great job of bringing the physical and the digital, sometimes I call it the phygital experience, to come together to create a great end-to-end experience for our shippers and our consumers.
You should trademark that, phygital. I will certainly be using that from now on. I'm glad you mentioned Roadie and Happy Returns, which you also oversee. And they're part of the physical touch points of UPS, but they also fit into this more modern omni-channel experience. How do those two in particular help you to extend UPS's reach beyond traditional package delivery And where do they help you compete within this ecosystem that UPS is a part of? What's a differentiator here?
Yeah, the differentiator is, look, one of the great things about these companies is when we acquired Happy and Roadie is when they build their ability to build technology, they can do in weeks and months, and they can make it very bespoke for customers. That's what's so really cool about them. Whereas at UPS, when we build, our technology platforms out, because of our size and scale, we build it for over 200 countries and territories around the world. So there's just a difference from scale, but they are very agile and nimble with the way they invest in their tech stack. But I think it's important because it's allowed us then to, one, create customized options for our customers, but also it's this power of listening that I talked about earlier. When our customers have unique needs, we can build capabilities for those customers. And Roadie has really came a great fit within our portfolio because what's happened is Roadie is a big and bulky same-day shipper. So if you ordered a small desk, if you ordered a couch, if you ordered a grill from one of our largest customers, they can deliver it the same day or within 24 hours. And that is an offering we did not have within our value proposition. We could deliver something always next day, but when you think about what happened during COVID, the accelerated pace of change within our industry, specifically in the United States, you saw more gig-like providers step in. Well, Roadie has over 250,000 gig drivers on platform that can actually step in and solve the gap that we had in our portfolio on same day in big and bulky. And what this allows us to do is to be able to sell to our customers a full suite of services. And it eliminated the gap within our portfolio. And so we've been able to add this to our value proposition, and it has resonated very, very well with our customers. The other side, with Happy Returns, this just continues to drive additional volume and small package in the segments that we want to grow within. And when you think about returns are really, really important to us. But Happy then has complemented, as I mentioned earlier, the UPS store. It's allowed us to be able to create a frictionless experience on returns and help solve for the shipper and the consumer.
As Chief Commercial and Strategy Officer, I'm sure you're constantly balancing growth with current volatility. How are you steering UPS's commercial strategy through this environment of, and your customers also, through this environment of trade friction, of cost inflation, of overall regulatory uncertainty?
Yeah, so I'm going to start with, look, at UPS, the brand, the trust of the brand means so much. And I think it's even amplified now. Some of the uncertainties that our customers are facing, whether you're a large enterprise customer that is trying to manage supply chain resiliency, and what our customers are doing at all levels in all sectors are coming to us because they do trust us. We've been partners for many years, but they come to us, Ruth, to ask us to say, look, help me navigate some of these changes. There's some uncertainty in our supply chain. Help us navigate through it, whether it be, and the way I would ask you to think about this is not just through a small package, but think about it through the entire supply chain. Think end to end. Think factory floor to front door. And that's how our customers are coming to us. If I bring it off a factory floor, what mode should I move it in? Should it be an ocean container or air freight? Do I need to pull my inventory forward faster? Once I get to put it on a specific mode, how do you broker it? And UPS is the largest broker in the world. So it gives us the opportunity to help our customers with each segment of their supply chain, as I mentioned, from the factory floor to the front door, to make sure that they can navigate, whether they be tariff related, anything within their supply chain to not cause disruption. And that's at the largest, some of our largest retailers. On the SMB side, our small and medium businesses, they're also trying to navigate the same thing, but they always can't pull inventory forward faster. So we also help them navigate through this as well to, one, help them understand and create some certainty with what's going on and help them understand whether it's trying to really understand the harmonized tariff code that they have to put on it so they can bring the packages in, to how they get it to the last mile to the home as well. So we're helping customers of all sizes really navigate right now. And I will tell you, we've done over what we call supply chain mapping sessions, which is an end-to-end of your supply chain. We've done over 600 supply chain mapping sessions over the last 6 months that really helps our customers navigate through some of these uncertain times.
What do you see as the most disruptive force in the shipping and logistics industry, let's say in the next 5 years?
I think AI is going to play a critical role with not just within the industry. I think it's going to play not just in the way physical packages are moved, but also how you and I engage on websites and on platforms to order, and how we buy, and how we're positioned products. And so I do think, look, we keep a very, very close eye and our finger on the pulse to understand, when you think about the amount of volume that we move through our network, to really understand the impacts of whether we get shorter zones, we get lighter weights. Because over the last few years, we've seen the zones shorten, right? And when I say zone shorten, I think about you might have had a customer that shipped 4 days or 3 days or 2 days or same day, as we just talked about. So we are seeing the zones start to shorten up, and we're also seeing lighter weight. The economy part of the market, of the segment of the market, is one of the fastest growing parts of the market. So how you play and win in that space and where we want to play in that space is critically important. But that's all, I would say, lower value, lower item goods that are still needing to be shipped. And what's happened here is, and I think it will continue to evolve over time, but COVID really pushed a different environment as it relates to what I order online versus what I go buy on, or what I buy in the store. And so as we continue to see this, evolve within the industry, we really stay close to this because we can see the dynamics in our business, but also we're moving further upstream to think about how consumers are engaging with our customers to make different selections and choices on shipping options so that we can be a part of that supply chain and at different components within their supply chain as well.
As I'm sure you know better, really, than anyone, large-scale transformation, it's about culture, it's about technology, it's about a lot of things, but it's really about the human capital. How do you bring your people along for this ride?
Yeah, I think it's a great point. There's two things that are critically important to me. One is our people, and when you think about purpose that you just highlighted. Look, I think, growing up in this company, I often put myself in the position of what if I am the one being communicated to versus the one doing the communication, right? And so it really keeps me close to the front line. To really put myself back in the roles that I highlighted earlier that when I grew up in this company, I had the opportunity to do. So it's making sure that as we think about change and change management, I don't think you can communicate enough, number one. And by the way, this was a lesson learned from me. Many times you think, well, we've sent the communication, we've done town halls, we've went out and done focus groups, we've done these things. You can't over communicate. And keeping that communication simple so people understand what's it mean to me? What does it mean to my role? And also giving people the options as we think about how technology is going to change the business. We want to inform the people so we can help them upskill into different areas. If I was doing a task that was a bit of a repetitive task day in and day out, that technology someday might come in or is at the forefront today. How do we take that individual that's very talented but upskill them and leverage their abilities in other areas of the business? You heard me talk about too, our culture is very, very rich here. UPS is a do-it culture. It is we can roll the sleeves up and we will go out and do it. We are practitioners of our business within the industry. But as we think about change and we think about leveraging technology in different ways, it's respecting and appreciating the legacy of the past. Our founder, Jim Casey, he had a quote that we still go back to some of our legacy book readings today that were done in the early 1900s, right? And one quote that always sticks with me that Jim Casey said was, determined people working together can accomplish anything. And it's making sure that our people feel like they're a part, but also not being blinded with what's coming in the future and how that we have to be agile and how that we have to change as a company so that we can continue to evolve and outpace whether they be market trends or technology trends.
I love that you brought up communication because I also agree that it's hugely important, especially for an organization that is as sprawling and dispersed as UPS. During the earnings report or earnings call this week, UPS was open about the fact that it had to eliminate some 48,000 jobs as part of its cost-cutting effort. And when that happens, there's understandably anxiety that creeps into any organization. So how are you keeping USPers motivated? What are you communicating to them in a way that will still keep them engaged and kind of all rowing in the same direction as you move forward?
Yeah, so first off, I think I read that same news piece as well. We had communicated that externally before. There was just certain individuals that put those numbers together. So if I can't, like, part of that was of our Amazon glide down plan. We were very early on, internally first with our people, to talk about the glide down plan, and that with that, some of that would come out. There would be a reduction in our employee base in that operation, because some of those jobs, and as we think about automation, will be replaced. So we were early on in that communication. The other component of that, which we had communicated very early on, was some of the reduction that we were doing through our management reduction as well. And so I think it's not just being overly communicating, but timing of communication is important. And it's also making sure that our people understand that we want to provide at UPS an opportunity of a lifetime for a career. And that's really where we're focusing on, making sure that we can upskill those individuals that want to raise their hand and say, I want to lean in, I want a career at UPS, right? And how we help them navigate through that's going to be really, really important. But like I said, there's never a point where you can over communicate this, but the timing and how we've been very purposeful being early in our communications has been critically important to keep our team motivated and all rowing in the same direction. And I think it's been very successful thus far. The one other thing I would say is, look, UPS, like other companies, we will always evolve. Transformation is not a 1-year cycle, a 3-year cycle, part of a strategy. As an organization, we will continually transform and always look at new and better ways as you think about the 3 tenets of our strategy: customer first, people led, and innovation driven.
What drives you personally at this stage of your career? Any unfinished business?
So, what drives people? The people in this organization is what drives me. It's our people and our customers, I think, are what's so important to me. Look, I've been blessed, Ruth, to have almost 26 years, I guess 25 years. My team makes me feel a little bit old. They say a quarter of a century is how long I've been at UPS, which makes me feel older. But I would tell you is that it's, our purpose at UPS is moving our world forward by delivering what matters. And our people is what is really what matters, but also helps us deliver what matters. And I would tell you, I think about the teams, and every day being able to come into this organization, this great organization, and make the decisions and lead the team that I'm able to lead. For me, it's really about the team and about seeing people do more than they ever thought they could do within this company, because they're doing it. We're all doing it for a common goal, for a common purpose, and really it's to serve our customers. And I think, I've always said this with the team, it's really about identifying the greatness in people, but most importantly, allowing them to see the greatness in themselves. And when you think about allowing people to see that they will do more than you ever thought or they ever thought they could do, but it's really empowering them to really continue the journey that UPS has done to make us we're 118 years young as a company, and how do we take it to the next 118 years?
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Matt. I now have a hankering to do some online shopping. I love when a UPS package hits my front door, but this has been a really eye-opening and fun conversation. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to meet you, and thank you for having me.